I mustered up enough courage to knock on her door, to ask if I could take her toddler, Johnny Bob, out for a walk every day after school. I loved children and I wanted to start a business caring for them. I looked older, but truth be told, I was only 10 years old. Jan was new in our little town, and she had two ladies visiting with her that had lived there for a long time, and she asked them about me and if I was dependable, and soon we had this schedule, and every day after school, I went and took Johnny Bob out for a walk. Bo was only about 2.5 weeks old, so we had to work into that. Thus began a long-time friendship that continued for over 62 years. That's how I met Jan Williams. During the time following, my duties expanded to the care of 3 darling blonde-headed boys, Johnny Bob, Bo, and Danny Todd, and our blonde-headed little sister, Jamie. I never got to take care of the baby Joe. He arrived after I went to college. But both Jan and I knew I claimed part ownership in those first 4 kids. Our friendship was like the Energizer Bunny. It just kept going and going. When Jan and I would get together, be it by phone or person, we would laugh and talk about favorite memories and stories, and there were a lot of them. She would call me Mona Marie, and I would call her Janice Ruth. One of my favorite stories is, though, when she was expecting Danny. She was supposed to be on bed rest, doctor's orders. I came down after school and found no one home. I worried she'd had to go to the hospital or something had gone wrong, and I sat on the front porch deciding what to do. You have to remember, way back in those old days, there were no cell phones. All of a sudden, their old gray car came up the street in a huge hurry, pulled into the driveway. Out jumped a very pregnant Jan, running into the house and shouting over her shoulder to me, "I have to hurry and get in the house and get to bed because Dr. Anthony's supposed to come check on me." So Dr. Anthony came. She was laying in bed looking very demure, sweetly, like she'd been waiting all day long for him, and I took the kids for a walk. She was a good wife and mother, married to Bob for 65 years. They still shared a closeness and joy of being together. She was organized. Oh, was she organized. When we used to go out and go places, she had me take her down to Hockenberry's and we were checking on her funeral things that she had in a folder. She was cheerful, never complained, always made their home a comfortable, warm, inviting place. Their house was a fun place to be, and it was never short on action. She taught me to multitask. She taught me that when life handed you lemons, you made lemonade. All that advice stayed with me as I continued on with my life as wife and mother. Jan faced whatever challenges she encountered straight on, and if need be, she switched to plan B or plan C without missing a beat. She had a strong faith, and it seemed to me that nothing was too much for her to handle. One of her favorite sayings, and I'm quoting again like what Gwen said, was saying, "You know me, I'm not wound up very tight." And it reflected her ability to roll with the punches and to adapt to the situation, which she often did with a great deal of humor, and she had a wonderful sense of humor. We moved from the area for about 40 years, but our friendship remained strong. When we returned to the area, the first time we sat down to visit, it was like I had never been away. I would take her to lunch, and we never, ever, ever ran out of things to talk about. She was a talker, I was a talker, and it probably took people's breath away just to listen to us visit. There were not many quiet places in our conversations. One time I'd taken her down to the China buffet restaurant for an early lunch at 11:30. We lost track of time with all our visiting. In came husband Bob, stuck his head in the door, and we were kind of shocked to see him. We asked him what was wrong. He said, I'm coming to check on you, see if you're all right. And we said, yeah, why wouldn't we be? It was 15 minutes till 5 in the afternoon. He also remarked, I can't believe that people could talk that long. I had that much to talk about. Time went very fast when we were together. I'd take her to Walmart, and there again she would get in her cart, and bless her heart, we never ran into a shelf, we never ran into a person, and you all know she couldn't see straight ahead. And she didn't go slow either. So we'd go shopping, Walmart, or downtown, or go out to eat. She'd call me Agnes, and I'd tell her I was driving Miss Daisy. I'd seatbelt her in, and off we'd go. She enjoyed introducing me to her friends that she would meet. She said, "This is my babysitter from a long time ago." And then she would add, and she was only 10 years old when she started, "And would you believe she has more grandchildren and grandchildren, great-grandchildren than I do? Would you believe that?" she'd say to them. She told me that that was not fair, but she's gaining now. So she was always up for a good time, full of fun and things to do and say. She was happy when she was helping others, and she was famous for her advisory sessions. She loved helping people straighten out their lives and solve their problems. She was a kind of person you could trust and confide in. She was a unique, one-of-a-kind lady whom we are all very lucky to have known. We are never quite ready to let our loved ones go, but she lived a good, full life. And knowing Jan, she's setting up her booth upstairs, ready to give advice to anyone who needs it. We love you, Jan.
Indeed, we are celebrating Jan's life, particularly her relationships with her family and with her friendships, but also we are celebrating her faith. And as you are able, I would invite you to please rise as we sing together our congregational hymn, verses 1 and 4 of How Great Thou Art, found on page 77 in the hymnal. A reading from 1 Corinthians 13. If I speak in the tongues of men or of angels, but do not have love, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have a faith that can move mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give all I possess to the poor and give over my body to the hardship that I may boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing. Love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. But where there are prophecies, they will cease. Where there are tongues, they will be stilled. Where there is knowledge, it will pass away. For we know in part and we prophesy in part, but when completeness comes, what is in part disappears. When I was a child, I talked like a child, I thought like a child, I reasoned like a child. When I grew up, I put the ways of childhood behind me. For now we see only a reflection as in a mirror. Then we shall see face to face. Now I know in part, then I shall know fully, even as I am fully known. And now these three remain, faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love. I was sharing with the family just a little bit ago that there's a beautiful thing that happens for the pastor when in the midst of getting the news that someone has passed away. There are people from the community that like to call the pastor to give them their stories about the person, to celebrate the life of the person that we are remembering. And in this particular instance, I have to say that Wednesday, particularly on Wednesday, my line in the office, and mine isn't even hardly a published line. My line would ring and ring and ring almost that entire morning. And I just wanted to answer Jan Williams' hotline, how might I help you? Because people were calling to tell and they weren't like unbelievable stories. They were realistic stories of this woman who touched lives even when she had no clue that she was touching a life, right? And there were people that called in that knew her through Meals on Wheels. There are those that called in that knew her through her work with the Cass County Memorial Hospital Auxiliary. There were people that called in that were connected to Heritage House. One lady called in who was connected with the Cancer Society. And these folks, all these folks that called in, and they were mostly women that called in, wanted to call in to share their good news, to share their witness of this woman who touched lives beyond herself. She touched lives beyond her circle of family. She touched lives beyond her circle of community. She was touching lives of strangers. She was making a difference while she was in this world. And I thought, boy, wouldn't we all, at the end of our days, when it's time for us to go from this life to the next, from this place to where we are not only in the presence of our family and friends who've gone on before us, but in the very presence of God Himself, wouldn't we like a similar testimony that he or she impacted lives, transformed lives in such a positive way without ever having a clue the amount of influence they were having on a life? That began the witness or the testimony of people calling in to let me know from their perspective, their experience of an amazing woman that we know as Jan Williams. There is a tradition in north central Missouri, and I know that Jan traveled a lot, but I don't know if she ever lived in north central Missouri, but she experienced a lot of the states. And there is a tradition though, and it is when a couple has been married for a very long time. When the first partner passes away, on the altar is a single candle that burns with a ribbon that says apart but not separated. And when their second partner dies and they go on to heaven, there's a same candle is brought back with a ribbon, and it simply reads together again. Right? Are you with me in that witness of our faith? Apart but not separated. And I remember when I saw that for the first time, there was a gentleman named Charlie from this little open country church, and I said, tell me about that. Tell me about that ribbon. And he said, well, it's a reminder that being apart means that we were spending time together, but we're no longer together. And I was thinking, yeah, I knew what the definition of apart was. But he said, being together, and then we're in a season of not being together, with an understanding and awareness that at another point in our journey of life, in our journey through the seasons, there'll be a time when we're together again. And he said, and in that belief, that strong belief of how our God is with those who are in a place of faith and understanding, that we're apart but not separated. And then Charlie, he grabbed his watch, and it was one of those really fancy watches called a Timex. And he grabbed the Timex and he unclasped the clasp and he laid it on the table between us, and he just took apart a couple of links. And he said to me, Pastor, he said, this is what life is. We meet people along our journey and we get linked together. And there'll be a time, and then he put those two links back together, when we'll be together again. These were apart, but in a special way, they're still connected. And I reflected on that, particularly as I was thinking of the entire Williams family and the way in which Jan has lived her life, where when she was with family and friends, that whole understanding of as a couple, flesh of my flesh, or as children or grandchildren in this broader circle of friendship, even if Jan wasn't in the room, and this is what I heard from many of the folks who were sharing their stories, and much like her friend shared this story, if you heard her laugh, you were immediately connected to her. If you smelled her perfume, even if somebody else was wearing it, you were immediately connected to her. And when people worked, particularly with the service-oriented agencies that Jan worked with, in a way she left a part of herself through her leadership, through her compassion, and through her service, that she was still active in it, even if she wasn't physically present in it. And my message today is, it might feel like we're separated from her right now, but we're not. We're apart physically for a while, but in God's time, we will all be together again. I think through the witness of her grandson and also from her friends, but also from the witness of each of you here today, we know a woman who has left an incredible legacy, hasn't she? And I don't simply mean the legacy of knowing family history or family stories. I don't mean the simple legacy of passing on family recipes, but it's that part of her that was her character that remains. And I want us to consider how we are still connected through how she lived her life, how she lived out her character, mind, body, and spirit. When you think of how you think, whether as husband or children, grandchildren, family, and friends, we know that we're under the influence of Jan's teachings. That's what I heard from children and grandchildren. It's what I hear from their friends that called in. Jan would share, and I don't know if she did this with everybody, but she would share her opinions about things. And people would be able to share with me how her ability to not only believe something, but to know why she believed it. And to be able to articulate that, it would influence. And so as we consider mind, body, and spirit, in our mind, in the way that we know we are under the influence of Jan's teachings, and simply because Jan is not physically here, that doesn't mean that influence on how we think or the talents that she lived out, or how she helped to center particularly your thoughts, your feelings, your ideas, your perceptions, and even in this moment how she's influencing your memories. She is not physically here, but she's still connected to us, and she still influences that part of us. And just as her grandson shared in his language, the other part of the language is physically, and I mean particularly with the family that's sitting here, her DNA is still in this place. Right? Part of who she is physically still with us. And you may see her in your eyes. You may see her smile in your smile. You may hear the echo of her laugh in your laugh. You may hear her patterns in your speech, or perhaps even in the way that you walk or move around, or the things that you do. You see how she still has this physical influence on who and how we are. And her spirit. Across the board, people celebrated her spirit, particularly in the areas of her passions, her gentleness, her loyalty, her will and sense of herself, her disposition, her attitudes, her zest for life. They gave it different definitions, but they were all speaking of her spirit. They celebrated her spirit that revealed her commitment to her family, her friends, her community, and her way of living out her faith. Jan may be apart from us, but she's still connected to us. And although we are apart, we are not separated. And one day, we all will be together again. One of Jan's most favorite sayings, and it's in the family bulletin, is everything happens for a reason. And I know that sometimes we look to her journey and the unexpected things that happened this past week, where we were saying a physical goodbye for a while. Things happen for a reason, and I heard that from both family and friends. And I think that if Jan would want us to really key into something right now, she would say, take a look around the sanctuary. So I would invite for you to do that. Just peek around the sanctuary. Peek at who's here. It's not all accidental that we took the 1 o'clock hour of this Saturday afternoon to come together to celebrate her life. It's not accidental that we've all come together to celebrate her faith. So out of the legacy that she modeled, I would invite for us to become storytellers. The memories, the reflections that we have on Jan's life, share them with one another. 1 Corinthians 13 teaches us faith, hope, and love. These three. These things remain, and the greatest of these is love. I would invite this day that we share with one another our stories of love, our stories of hope, our stories of faith, and our stories of Jan, who is apart from us for a while, yet in the way that we love, still very connected. Would invite for you to join me in our affirmation of faith. Who shall separate us from the love of Christ? Shall tribulation or distress or persecution or famine or nakedness or peril or sword? No. In all things we are more than conquerors through the one who loved us. We are sure that neither death nor life, nor angels nor principalities, nor things present, nor things to come, nor powers, nor height, nor depth, nor anything else in all creation will be able to separate us from the love of God in Christ Jesus our Lord. Thanks be to God. Amen. Let us pray. God of us all, your love never ends. When all else